Good day, viewers. My name is Opeoluwa Valentine David. I'm a biology instructor. Today, I'm talking about the biology of Hydra. Hydra, Hydra, Hydra is an invertebrate. Hydra is an invertebrate. What are invertebrates? Invertebrates belong to a group of animals that lack backbone. You see, a group of animals that lack backbone. Backbone, you see, backbone, backbone. Backbone is also called vertebral column. Backbone is also called vertebral column. If you look at human beings, we humans have backbone. That's how you can stand upright. So if I sketch the backbone for you, something like this, bones of the vertebral column, bones of the vertebral column. It's also called spinal column. Spinal column. And in human beings, it houses the spinal cord. The spinal cord flows through the vertebral column to the neural canal. So Hydra are invertebrates. So they belong to the group of animals called invertebrata. Yes, then we have the phylum. That's the phylum. Belongs to the phylum Coelenterata. Coelenterata. We also call Coelenterata nidarians. We call them nidarians. Nidarians. You see? Yes, that's Hydra. Now, there's one thing you must know about Hydra. Let me draw the diagram of Hydra for you. Diagram of Hydra. Diagram of Hydra. I draw like this. So, this is a sketch of diagram of Hydra. You can see this is Hydra. Yes. Now, something about Hydra. Hydra has two body walls. Two body walls. Hydra has two body walls. When you say an organism has two body walls, that means it is diploblastic. Diploblastic. So we have two body walls, diploblastic, and those body walls are the outer wall called the ectoderm, and the inner wall called the endoderm. In between is a gelatinous material. In between is a gelatinous material called mesogly. Mesogly. So diploblastic organisms. We have another organism that's triploblastic, that has ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm, but that's a diploblastic organism. The body is also radially symmetrical. Radially symmetrical. That's Hydra. What do you mean by radially symmetrical? When you can divide an organism into various planes, into two equal arcs along any plane. Two equal arcs along any plane. You divide an organism into two equal arcs along any plane. So looking at the structure of Hydra, it has a central axis in which the body can be divided along any plane. So if I do something like this, for example, I sketch an organism like this now, you can divide into two equal arcs along any plane. That is radially symmetrical. So I'll label the Hydra now. And this is the tentacles. This space you are seeing here is the mouth. Here is the hypostome that bears the mouth, surrounds the mouth. Here is the ectoderm. I told you the other time, ectoderm. You see? Here is the mesoglea, the gelatinous material. Here is the endoderm, the inner wall. And here is the testis. Here is the ovary. Here is the basal disc. Basal disc. So in this case now, this place you see here is the gut cavity. Gut cavity. Called the enteron. Gut cavity called the enteron. You see, gut cavity called the enteron. So the tentacles are normally used for movement and for feeding. Tentacles are used for movement. We can use tentacles for movement and feeding and defense. How can we use tentacles for defense? On the tentacles, we have what is called the stinging cells. There's something called the stinging cells. The stinging cells are called the nematocysts. They are found on the tentacles. The stinging cells are called nematocysts. Something about these nematocysts, they are housed in a structure called the needleblast. This is the stinging cell, something like this. This is the nematocyst. Nematocyst housed in the needleblast. So they are stinging cells for defense. They have poisonous substances that used to stop the prey. Then this Hydra is a organism that has a gut with a single opening. It has a gut, a single opening. It has a single opening. Food passes through the mouth, through the gut cavity. Once food is digested partially extracellularly and the direction of Hydra is partially extracellular and intercellular. So food enters through the gut cavity into the enteron, and waste food also goes out through the mouth. So the Hydra has a mouth, this organism with a single opening. Food goes into the mouth, into the organism, and waste food comes out also through the mouth. Then this basal disc is what is used to attach to the surface, called the rocky beds, called the substratum. Substratum. Yes. So now reproduction in Hydra. Hydra reproduces both sexually and asexually. For sexually, it is an hermaphrodite. It has both testes and ovary. Hydra is an hermaphrodite. An hermaphrodite is an organism that contains both male and female sex organ. So it can reproduce sexually. Then asexually is by budding. When there's during favorable conditions. Budding. What was a bud? A bud is an outgrowth of an organism. When there's an outgrowth from an organism, outgrowth by the side. So in this case now, a single bud can develop from this Hydra here. A single bud can go out here. You see? The bud matures. Once it becomes a adult bud, it breaks off and develops into a young bud. It breaks off and develops into a young bud. So I'll be bringing the class to a close here. I've talked about the major features of Hydra. I talked about the fact that it's a diploblastic animal. It's an invertebrate. It belongs to the phylum Coelenterata ungularians. It's a gut with a single opening. It's only a single opening. It's diploblastic, ectoderm and endoderm. Sorry, this is spelling of mesogly. So yes. So then we have I will say it has tentacles for movement, and on the tentacle we have stinging cells called dermatocysts. Tentacles are also used for feeding, and for movement. Yes. And I said Hydra produces sexually and asexually. See you in the next class. Good day.